money. And look, there's no guarantee it'll stay there. There's only one thing I know in life with absolute certainty. Tomorrow, our share price is going to be higher than it is today, what it is today, or lower than what it is today. And no one knows for sure. This phenomenon that's occurred, where retail investors have poured into embracing certain companies that they like, has been called the democratization of Wall Street. And I think it has its roots all the way back in the financial crash of 2008. I think Main Street was outraged at Wall Street because there was an economic collapse, as we all know, in Wall Street, and it was the U.S. taxpayer who bailed out the whole financial system. And thank goodness that both the Bush administration and the Obama administration did, or we might have seen a global depression in 2008. But that didn't make the average American taxpayer happy about it. And as Wall Street elites have been thumbing their noses at Main Street, I think a lot of these people wanted the legitimacy that they deserved. And they are a force to be reckoned with, not only for AMC, but for all the financial markets. Now, we did take that one step further. In addition to actively communicating with our investors, we watched as our share price exploded up. It was trading at $3 a share in January, $2 a share in January. By early May, it was $10 a share. That was like triple what we were trading at in mid-January. So we went out and we raised money. We sold shares in the open market, and we brought in $425 million. It was like, that was much needed cash for us. And we did it at an average price of just under $10 a share in the first 2 weeks of May. By the end of May, we were trading at $20 a share and $30 a share. And in early June, we were trading at $50 a share. And we sold a lot more stock in the open market. And we raised a lot of cash. And it turns out in May and June, we raised $1.25 billion through the sale of equity. And that $1.25 billion was incredibly valuable to our company to help make us confident that we'll not only survive this pandemic, but thrive through this pandemic. So yes, we've embraced our investors. We're very grateful to them for their love and affection of our company. And I'll say that today, whether our share price goes up tomorrow, it stays the same or it goes down.
Okay. You mentioned the roots of this whole movement of this love for AMC. And AMC has really become something much more than just a stock for a lot of these shareholders. It's come to symbolize something. It's come to symbolize an effort to democratize Wall Street at large, to make the system more fair. It's brought to light things like dark pools, price manipulation, payment for order flow. Do these things matter to you?
Sure they do. Look, this has been an almost impossible situation to navigate through from March 16 of 2020 to today. First, we had to deal with the fact that our revenues went from $450 million a month to $450,000 a month in a week's time. In a week, we went from $450 million to $450,000 of revenue. Companies weren't designed to lose 99% of their revenue. They just weren't. But we got our way through that, and then this whole meme stock phenomenon is totally uncharted waters. I don't think any CEO has lived through what I've lived through in the past 6 months, other than the other few CEOs who are living through it at the same time. We are doing everything we know how at AMC to do this right and do this proper. But I'm all for regulation. And I hope that in this democratization of Wall Street, that the SEC looks hard at how markets function and puts in policies, procedures, regulations, laws that govern how markets work. I'm a big believer in the capitalist system. A Harvard Business School graduate, with distinction, I might add. And I've always believed in markets, and I've always believed in capitalism. And I've always believed that our system is the best way to grow wealth, not grow wealth for an individual, but grow wealth for the entire population on the planet. But capitalism only works when it's fair and when it's regulated and when the rules of the game are set out so nobody cheats. And that's the job of the SEC. And I know that they're on the case, not our case or this particular situation, but the SEC was established because of the great market crash in 1929. The SEC's job was to make sure that, there are free and fair, open markets. And I think over the span of 100 years, the SEC's done a great job. And I want them to do a great job going forward for the next 100 years, because the best thing that can happen to all of us is that markets operate fairly, so that stock markets exist well, that people believe in them, so that companies can raise capital to grow and to thrive. I think a lot of our shareholders feel the same way.
Do you think that there's price manipulation of AMC stock because of things like dark pools and naked shorts, synthetic shorts, et cetera?
I've never made a public comment on this subject heretofore, and I will honor that tradition and not make a public comment today. Suffice it to say, I want free, fair, and open markets, well-regulated markets. I want companies to stay on the right side of the line and do what's good and just and play by the rules. It's up to the SEC to decide what's right and what's proper, and I'm happy to live under their judgment.
Okay. Fair enough. Want to talk a little bit more about your relationship with the retail investor, since they are so important to you. You said before they call you king. They also call you silverback. What are some of your favorite nicknames? What are your favorite memes that you've come across?
Well, let me start by answering your question this way. Think of this all as an orchestra playing a great piece of music. Aron is not the conductor of that symphony. I might be on the timpani drum, but I'm not the conductor. And I've described this whole meme stock phenomenon as riding a tiger by the tail. We're not the tiger. I'm not the tiger. I'm on the tail, and I'm holding on for dear life. And so I don't want anyone to think that we're somehow orchestrating all of this, that we've got it all. Oh, it's some grand scheme in the back of our heads. No, this is all just an outpouring of enthusiasm and affection for our company from the people who own our company. Having said that, I have a sense of humor. You got to laugh at some of this stuff, right? And as I said, I read 1,000 messages a day. Some of them are flattering. Some of them are uproariously funny. And usually the ones that are uproariously funny are the ones where my face has been put into some other place, or somehow Frank Sinatra's voice is coming out of my mouth singing my way. I've seen 3 or 4 really good songs that supposedly I'm singing, and it's my face that's moving, but I promise you I don't have that kind of a voice. There are other memes that have come forward. Somebody took my face and somehow ingrained it into the face of a gorilla. If you look at the gorilla from afar, it looks like a gorilla. As you zoom in on the face, it's me. There's a well-known one where my face was put in place of Marlon Brando in the Godfather poster, and it was relabeled the Ape Father. There's another one where my face was superimposed where Sigourney Weaver's face was on the poster for Gorillas in the Mist, which was the biography of Diane Fossey, the great conservationist who helped save the great apes, an endangered species in the Rwanda and the Congo. They're all pretty funny. I'll tell you this, though. Look, it's very flattering, and in many cases it's amusing. But I learned a long time ago, never read your own press clippings, and don't believe all the good things that are said about you, and don't ever let it go to your head. Let's be clear. Going back to my original metaphor, the retail investors, are the conductors of this orchestra. I'm just playing an instrument, playing my role, and hoping for a good outcome for all of us.
But all this shows that you really resonated somehow with the retail shareholder base. And so I want to ask you about what happened in the second interview that you did with Trey Collins when the camera tilted down and showed that you were revealing no pants. Was there a hidden message behind that? Was that planned?
So there is this famous YouTube interview. It was like an hour long. For the record, I was wearing a tie and a dress shirt, and the camera was positioned above my waist, and I looked quite the professional CEO, and the camera fell over in the middle of the interview, and you might say it exposed the shorts, because I was wearing shorts below the waist, because it wasn't on camera, and people saw that, and instantly, people were wondering if it was an accident or planned. People were wondering if there was a hidden message that my shorts were exposed. And, there was an old commercial about hair coloring back in the 1970s. Only her hairdresser knows for sure. I'm never going to tell you whether it was planned or not.
Oh, come on. Are you wearing pants now, Adam?
Can you tilt the camera down, please? I indeed am wearing a full suit today.
Okay, so no exposing the shorts, so to speak, today at least.
Not today.
At what point is it too much to listen to them? Back in June, you asked the shareholders to authorize the issuance of 25 million new shares. You took that off the table before it came to a vote because of the backlash that it got on Twitter. Not many CEOs would respond to that sort of backlash by pulling what they think needs to be done for the good of the company. Why did you do that?
So you'll recall I told you that I ran an NBA team for a couple of seasons. And there was this wonderful line. I used to listen to the fans all the time. And I had a real eminence grise who was the general manager of the team. He was 75 or something. And he'd been around forever and ever. He said, Adam, be careful. If you listen to the fans too much, pretty soon you'll be sitting up in the seats with the fans. I am aware that my job is to lead, and my job is to convince our shareholder base of the right things that need to be done for our company. And often I will take their advice, and sometimes I won't take their advice. But in the case in particular of issuing 25 million more shares that was on the ballot at our July 2021 annual shareholder meeting, you have to remember that our company sold a lot of stock between September of 2020 and June of 2021. We had 100 million shares outstanding in January of 2020. By June of 2021, we had 513 million shares outstanding. We'd already issued shares that had more than quintupled our shareholder base. And yes, personally, I made it very clear. I thought the best thing that our company could do was issue another 25 million shares. It would only be 2% of the shareholding count at the moment. And we could have raised easily, another billion or $2 billion of cash, which would have given us that much bigger of a war chest to go out and grow this company and do interesting things with it. But, I wouldn't call it a backlash per se on Twitter, because I saw so many tweets in favor of it and so many tweets opposed to it. It's not like there were people who were universally opposed to it, but it was clear that there was a great division of opinion. And as someone who's led the selling of over 400 million new shares in a year, now that I'm in the movie business, I sort of think of everything in sort of movie titles and movie quotes. There's a famous movie called A Bridge Too Far about a World War II battle. And it just seemed to me that if our shareholder base was that split, not everybody in favor, not everybody opposed, but really split, it was just pushing the envelope too far to sell more shares that soon. So we took it off. We took that whole issue off the table for calendar year 2021. We not only didn't vote on it at the July meeting, but I said we wouldn't make that proposal again in calendar year 2021. We might revisit that idea in 2022 or 2023. We'll see. No decisions made yet. But Look, I think when you lead a public company, especially with retail investors who are the core of the ownership, having an understanding of what they're willing to support and having an understanding of what causes them angst, it's important to have your fingers on the pulse. And that's why I've been reading all these inbound messages I get, whether it's emails or tweets. It's important for me to know what they're thinking. And, sometimes they're going to have to do what I think is best, regardless. But other times, I should listen very carefully to what they have to say. In this instance, discretion is the better part of valor. I thought wisdom was to wait for a time when our shareholder base was more enthusiastic about the idea where, you're never going to get to 100-0. But if you can get to 70-30 or 65-35,
Right.
That's a lot better than chasing something that's more like 50-50.
Are you actively looking at ways to raise capital right now?
Yes.
Can you elaborate?
No.
You can't issue more shares.
We cannot and will not issue more shares in calendar year 2021. We've said that categorically. And by the way, we essentially have run out of common stock. Other than the 5.5 million shares that are sitting ungranted in the management incentive plans, the annual stock grants that 150 of our executives receive every year, I think we only have 46,000 common shares left that we could sell legally without a shareholder vote. There are all sorts of other ideas that various people are floating to us.
Reverse stock split and then issuing new shares? Is that on the table?
That's not on the table. And my understanding of the law is that if we did a reverse stock split, that would also contract the number of shares we're allowed to issue. So it's not like if you did a reverse stock split, all of a sudden you'd have hundreds of millions of shares that you could sell. But given where our stock is trading at the moment, I don't think a reverse stock split would make sense under any circumstances. We're not trading at $2,000 a share. We're trading in the mid 40s at the time of this interview.
My last